Okay, so I'm just gonna start. I thought it would be very fitting to end this video, to end this compilation out at my favorite place. It's my cute little uniform. But anyway, so I'm at work, obviously. Culver's, obviously. So I'll be going over chapter 18 and chapter 20 together. Now, there's a very specific reason as to why these last couple chapters I decided to group these together instead of going in chronological order. That's because I felt as though the themes between these couple chapters went really well together, so I decided to obviously do a video with them together despite them being out of order. So chapter 18 goes over this idea of context matters. Now, the homework assignment was to find an accountability partner. I'm lucky. I room with the wonderful Brittany. Brittany. And so she's been keeping me on track with things. We've been bouncing a bunch of ideas off of each other, which has been pretty good. So I I should have followed the directions, but I didn't really find like an actual accountability partner. Just because I'm working on keeping my own self accountable. In the past, when I was younger, I used to get into the habit of just blaming other people for stuff, so I would easily fall back into that habit, so for that reason. But in terms of finding an accountability partner, it's important to find people who are both like-minded and of differing opinion than you within your own degree program and within other degree programs. That's why me and Brittany get along really well. So in my own degree program, I have a lot of people, my teachers, my mentors, who are kind of like my accountability partners, mainly because I have homework to turn in, due dates. So, but either way, chapter 18 is context matters. And I really liked the Buena Casa that he was building, that the rubber tapper dude was talking about, not just because of my endless infatuation of Spanish, but because of this idea that you really are, in your lifetime, you are building up your own house, your own structure within life. And so the question is, what kind of buena casa do you want to cultivate? And you have to cultivate the kind of leadership qualities you want to see within yourself and also within your community. And the only way you can do that is by first, as this entire book has pointed out, reflecting on who you are as a leader, what are your guiding principles in life, and like, how are you going to achieve those goals of yours? So again, mine's justice, peace, hope, family is a really big thing for me. So in cultivating this culture of leadership, we deal with this whole idea of trust, right? And that's where we get this idea of the family relationship from. Because if you don't trust other people, then you're not going to feel as though you're in a safe enough space to be innovative, to be creative, to go out and try new and different things. So there are three main points that I took from this chapter, and it was trust, which I just covered, professional development or growth opportunities, and innovation. So like I said, you have to have a basic trust, a basic level of trust in everything that you're doing. Otherwise, there's not going to be any communication that goes on between your team. And you're not going to feel supported enough to actually go out and try to do new things. Professional development or growth opportunities. So growing is important, right, as we've now covered multiple times throughout this whole process. Because if you stay stagnant, you're just going to sit there and die. You're not going to continue to motivate or inspire your team members. And eventually someone better is going to come along and basically just steal your team because you're not doing anything. How can you give the best to your team if you are not growing? Like, the world's changing so fast, you can't afford to just sit there and not grow anymore. Which then leads into the third point of innovation. So innovation can only occur after you get to a certain level of comfort within your existing paradigm, your existing framework. Like, you have to understand what the system is first before you can innovate outside of it. Otherwise, you're going to A, come up with the exact same thing that they just created, or B, come up with something that just doesn't even work because you don't understand the basic principles. So it's important to have all of these three things in place when you are developing your own leadership style, but also when you're going out and interacting with your team members as well. So the reason why I think that they titled this Context Matters is because everybody is coming from their own backgrounds, and we talk about this a lot in education, when students are trying to create their own meaningful learning opportunities, learning environments, because they're coming to the classroom with their own contextual understanding of things, their own background. We see the example that two students can go through the exact same activity, but they're going to come up with two different answers based off of their contextual understanding of the material, which is their background and where they grew up at and all these different, what socially and culturally makes the child the child. And so we have the same thing in the workplace. I don't understand why people don't transfer all these ideas over to the adulthood. It's the exact same thing, okay? So you have, in my workplace, you have Mexicans from different areas of Mexico, you have white people, you have black people, you have some Indian kids, you have a wide variety of people, and that's just talking about it from a race perspective. Now you have to go into the language differences. We have Lithuanian girls. A lot of people here don't speak English as their first language. It's a great opportunity to really work with people. And for example, one of the issues we'll run into is with order taker. So you're wearing this headset, and my poor little Lithuanian girls are trying so hard to take orders and communicate, but because of their thick accents, they can't be understood that well. So you have two things that the manager could do, right? The manager could yell at them, scream at them, oh, why are you messing orders up? Or why can't you talk better? Or you'll work with them and be like, hey, so this is how you sound on drive-thru, and if you want to improve it, this is how. Me being a linguist, I'm always curious to how we can change and shape language differently. Or you can just accept them and be like, look, maybe you should only work on tender, or only work on custard. Those kinds of things. Those are the contextual understandings that a leader has to understand about their team specifically in order to be able to motivate them and encourage them and help them grow through whatever their weaknesses are. Now, chapter 20. I forgot the title of chapter 20. And there are no questions associated with chapter 20. Isn't that depressing? So, I have to scroll back in the book to figure out what the title was. Chapter 20 is, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And this chapter for me, the reason as to why I paired it with chapter 18 is because we just saw that context matters. So the context of your team members is the base foundation that you have to work with. Because if you don't understand who they are and what motivates them as individuals, then you're not going to understand how to develop that intrinsic sense of motivation within them on any given, in your work experience or in your organizational experiences, what have you, in your classroom. Chapter 20 is a really good ending point, in my opinion. This entire book, we've discussed how we have to develop internally as leaders, the different things we have to work through in order to improve and give our best self to our team. But at the end of the day, it's not about us, right? And it's not about how or where we started. Although that is part of the journey, that is a part of our story, it is about how we finish. So we might have started out a little racist and then we ended people and, actually all lives matter, and not just saying that to degrade the Black Lives Matter movement, like things like this. It's important to also keep this framework in mind. It's not how you start, it's how you finish when you're working with your team members as well. Because your team members can start out. I had a girl, for example, I'll do a case study real quick. I had a girl, she couldn't take orders. She messed up every single order she took. She seemed like a little ditzy, a little stupid on shifts. And everyone had kind of just given up on her because they're like, oh, she just can't learn. Well, instead of taking it from the idea, oh, you just can't learn, everyone can learn. You learned how to speak English. You learned how to walk. Obviously, you can learn. So I went in a couple times outside of my shift, and I worked one-on-one with her. And I'm like, look, this is how you ring stuff in. And we diversified the way that we taught the instruction. I had her rewatch the training video. I worked with her one-on-one on the computers. You do a lot of stuff. And now she's not my best drive-thru girl, but she can take pretty good orders. She handles our dinner rushes really well. She handles herself now, and she's able to. And if we had only judged her from where she started at the very beginning, 2 years ago, I think, then we wouldn't have been able to see this entire growth over the span of the past 2 years of her being here. And that was because of the framework that we have here at Culver's and of us operating like a family. We're going to work with each other through our struggles. So the notes that I wrote. So the overall themes were: believe in yourself, aspire to excel, challenge yourself, engage in support, and practice deliberately. I really and I forgot to talk on this on a different chapter, I'm pretty sure, but the idea of deliberate practice is so important, because and we talk about this in music education as well. But if you're just over here like playing the flute, playing whatever, then you're not identifying your weak spots and you're not improving what those weak spots are. You're just playing and thus wasting your time. Deliberately practicing things, deliberately working on things gives you the opportunity to continue to grow, and it goes back into the growth mindset and the family and all this extra good stuff of, you know, you want to keep progress, keep moving forward. It was the Robinson, not Jackie Robinson, but Meet the Robinsons film, like, keep moving forward. You have to keep improving, otherwise you're just stagnant and you're gonna die. Awful death. Ooh. So that's why deliberate practice is important, to be able to identify those weak spots. Everything else I kind of already talked on in all of my videos. Believing in myself has been a big thing that I struggle with, especially this year. Can I do it? Should I do it? My idea is too crazy. My idea is too stupid, whatever. Now I'm just really focused on going for it, you know, taking that leap of faith, because like I was saying, there's a reason as to why I have these visions, I have these dreams. These ideas have been given to me, and it's my job to make them come to life. And I'll be damned if I have to die with all of my dreams surrounding me. Oh my gosh, that would be awful, to not realize any of my dreams or goals. I'd be so sad. Aspire to excel. My friend came up with the nickname for me, Miss Black Excellence. So like I try to excel in everything that I do. Now that I have that framework that I'm working from, the environmentalism, Black Lives Matter, and women's rights, women's movement, it's helping me to be able to give my all to certain areas instead of spreading myself too thin, which in return is challenging myself to go deep instead of wide, because I can do wide all day, but to actually show my vulnerable side to any group is terrifying, but necessary. What else did I write? Make your choices visible to others. Okay, so I thought that was really important. When you're making decisions as a leader, you have to make those conscious decisions visible to other people. Not only so that you can demonstrate to other people, like, hey, like, leadership is a learning process and a learning curve, and you adapt, but also to demonstrate, make your choices visible to others, but also demonstrate that you care, right? Like, if you're just up in the back, like, hiding away from everybody, that's not leading. You know, you want to show people, I'm dedicated to this just as much as you are, I'm here just as much as you are, so you can't just ignore what their needs are simply because you want to hide away from them. You have to decide, look, this is where I stand with me, you know. And that's going back to the whole idea of operating on the same framework and to the same vision, kind of thing in communication. The final thing is this idea of hope. Now, this book ends on a really high note, really hopeful note, and it's talking about emphasizing how it is that you finish rather than how you started. And I think that the message that they are sending, the message that I interpreted, is it is up to the leaders to bring in hope into their lives and into the world around them, you know. Like, let me elaborate. I was going to say, you know what I mean? No, you don't, because I'm the one that's talking. So, leaders, if you want to get all philosophical with it, leaders have a certain vision for the world or the life that they would like to lead. And in order to make those ideas come to fruition, you have to pursue them relentlessly, continuously, with a certain amount of grit, which in turn creates a lot of hope for the world, because you can have the craziest idea ever, but if you say, no, I'm dedicated to this, I'm determined to see this through, then you're going to inspire hope in other people through whatever bad situations they're going through. Like, hey, I can do this too. Like, it's crazy. But I don't want to end, but I'm ending. Hope is the most important thing that leaders can give to their community, because of, at least I think this, because I have a lot of crazy visions for my life. I'm really excited with this teaching idea and the idea of challenging the normal traditional status quo with the traditional education framework, bringing in rap and hip-hop and, you know, traditional black forms of expression into the classroom environment is really cool. I also want to do a project. I think I'm going to start this up over the December time, over our break, where there's this thing called, from Venezuela, called El Sistema, which is an opportunity for low-income kids to pick up orchestra instruments and to learn, you know, how to play in the orchestra. And it's free of charge, and I was thinking about starting that, writing some grants or whatever it is that I need to do at my old middle school, Burridge Middle, because they don't have any orchestra programs, and if you don't have orchestra going into high school, then you just don't play an orchestra, which I think is really sad. What else? I'm starting a podcast, yeah, the Bad Bitch Mentality, to work on anxiety, depression, the mental health side of things, but also to really work on personal development of girls. I'll probably start it catered towards the sorority, and move from there, expand it from there. So, starts with believe you can, as the book says. So, I'm excited, but that's where we're at right now, first semester. So, this is over. This is great. Thank you.